Saelah sat in the car with her alphas, watching the scenery pass by as they headed to Satoru's family home for the Christmas holiday. She wasn't the only one meeting the family for the holidays. Denny would spend it with Suguna and his nephew, and since she would be gone the day of, they would celebrate when she returned. The last month and a half had been busier than she thought it would be. She'd helped two of her alphas through their ruts. They celebrated Satoru's birthday once his rut was over, and she'd also gotten a couple of new clients. She'd even had to troubleshoot part of the hospital system that Denny worked at twice because the same nurse plugged in a corrupted flash drive trying to play music at the nurse's station. Something they knew they weren't supposed to do, and Saelah hadn't been able to help but wonder how many times they'd allow her to do it before writing her up or firing her, since each time made their system vulnerable. Everything she'd done in the last month and a half had been far less nerve-wracking than what she was currently headed to do. "There's no need to be nervous," Satoru said, pulling her out of her thoughts. His right hand came to rest on her thigh as he drove. "I'm not," she responded automatically. It was almost like a reflex, but she realized they could smell it on her, so she said, "It's easy for you to say, but I'm meeting your families at the same time." "And they will adore you," Kento said. "Will they?" she asked seriously. "Because our relationship isn't exactly the norm, and I'm sure they had hopes of you finding mates separately and settling down. They probably also didn't imagine you with a foreigner." "That isn't going to matter to them as long as we're happy," Satoru said. "Honestly, my parents' biggest question is going to be if you can give them grandkids. They'll love you forever for that." He smirked, and she knew he was trying to ease her worries, but it hadn't helped. "I'm serious," she started. "Family is everything, and I don't want our relationship to cause an issue between you and yours." "It won't," Suguru said. "We're adults. We decide what we want to do with our lives. Our families have no say in that. We're introducing them to you as a courtesy to them. Outside of that, their opinion on our dynamic doesn't matter. But Satoru's right. They just want us to be happy. The toughest part of this will probably be my sisters because they always ask too many questions. They're far too nosy. Besides, you're perfect, so let me repeat myself. They're going to adore you," Kento said. She took a deep breath, and as she exhaled, she felt herself relaxing. It only took a split second to realize that her alphas were releasing calming pheromones. She placed her hand on top of Satoru's, which was still on her thigh, and relaxed into her seat. Saelah would take their word for it and allow the chips to fall where they may. When they pulled up to Satoru's family home, Saelah couldn't stop her eyes from widening even if she wanted to. It was a large estate, and while she knew his family was wealthy, she hadn't expected them to pull up to what felt like its own little island. She hadn't seen another turnoff or home for miles on their way. "I see my parents are already here," Kento said, gesturing to one of the parked cars. "Mine too," Suguru announced, pointing to another one. "I'm pretty sure they arrived yesterday evening. My mom wanted us to come then, but I didn't see a need since we weren't exchanging gifts until today and not going to the shrine until tomorrow," Satoru said. Saelah got the feeling he made that decision for her. In the event she felt uncomfortable, they would only be there for a day instead of two. They removed their bags from the trunk, and she was not surprised that Kento would not let her have hers. She took a deep breath as they headed to the front door, which was opened by someone she assumed worked in the household. "Young master," they greeted Satoru. "Everyone's in the living room waiting for all of you." They wasted no time, Satoru replied as they removed their coats. "You can put our luggage in my room." Someone else appeared as if summoned and took their bags, heading down a hall, and Saelah watched them go until she felt a hand on her back. "Shall we stall and give you a tour?" Satoru asked. It was tempting, but Saelah figured it was better to rip the band-aid off because stalling would make her more nervous, though she almost wished she'd thought to put on scent patches. That way, if her nerves were to kick back up, no one would have been able to smell it. "No, I'm ready," she told him with a confidence she didn't fully feel. She didn't think she could be blamed for that, considering it was her first time meeting the parents of someone she was dating, and it was three someones at that. Kento took her face in his hand and kissed her. "Remember, they'll adore you." She nodded, feeling lighter from his kiss, and decided two more would be equivalent to liquid courage. So she kissed Suguru and Satoru too, and the latter placed his hand on the small of her back and steered her down a hall and into the living room where 8 people waited for them. All eyes turned to them, and they made Saelah freeze in her tracks. Kento took care of the introductions, introducing their families first and ending with, "Everyone, this is Saelah, the woman we're courting." "We're, as in all 3 of you?" Kento's dad asked, and Saelah swallowed, preparing for the worst as curiosity settled into several pairs of eyes. "Yes," Satoru replied. "I get her accepting courting from Kento and Satoru, but you, Oni-chan, she's too pretty for you," Nanako said. Saelah giggled, feeling some of the tension ease from her as Suguru's parents laughed. Kento's mom pressed her lips together to keep from joining in, and Satoru's mom tried to hide her smile behind her hand. She got the feeling that the twins picking on their big brother was a common occurrence. "Please tell me you kept the receipt. It's past time to return them," Suguru directed to his parents. "Hey, I didn't say anything," Mimiko countered. "Saelah-san, is it okay if I call you that?" Umiko, Satoru's mom asked. "Yes, please," Saelah replied. "Come have a seat. Tell us about yourself." She took the offer seat, her alphas joining her, and for the next 15 minutes she told them about herself and answered whatever questions they had. "I've always thought that those who understand technology that deeply are lucky. Aside from using my phone, it and I don't get along well. Sometimes even that device is challenging. Miyu," Kento's mom said. Saelah nodded. It can definitely be tiring, and after working with it all day, I find a good book is the best way to unwind. They continued to talk, the twins taking special interest in asking questions about how their brother was courting her, which he shut down each time. She knew they were teasing him, and she couldn't help but smile because she could tell Suguru wasn't as irritated as he pretended to be. At some point, someone brought refreshments, and they'd come and gone so quickly she almost thought it appeared by magic. The group had been talking for over an hour, and she found that she and Shun, Kento's dad, both enjoyed trying different teas, and he recommended some to her. Saelah felt far more at ease than she had going into the meeting. No one seemed to harbor any ill feelings about their son courting or sharing her. Either that, or they were well versed at hiding their scent, as none of them were wearing scent blockers. Satoru, why don't you give Saelah a tour of the property and let her rest until dinner since it was a bit of a drive? Towa, Satoru's dad suggested. Resting until dinner sounds like a great idea. Asami, Suguru's mom agreed. Geez, Mom, you nap more than anyone I know, Nanako replied. She isn't wrong, dear. Ritsu, Suguru's dad, agreed. Let's take that tour, Satoru said, standing and offering her his hand. She allowed him to guide her out of the living room with her other alphas behind them, and they started the tour. Kento followed Satoru and Saelah along with Suguru while the former gave the tour. He had visited enough times to know each place his friend was showing her before they got there. They were stopping at all of the common spaces in the wing where guests normally stayed. Then they ventured back to the entrance to retrieve their coats and headed outside. The property was vast, and they pointed out different spots where they'd gotten up to no good in high school. Kento watched as Saelah took in the view. It's so pretty, she said in awe as the snow crunched softly under their feet. He couldn't help but agree with her, and he understood what she was feeling. It was the same way he'd felt the first time he'd seen the property during winter with all of the snow. It was like something out of a feel-good movie and was still one of the most gorgeous sights he'd seen. It even rivaled when the cherry blossom trees on the property were in bloom. Is that a koi pond? Saelah asked as they entered the garden outside Satoru's room. It is, Satoru replied. This year, it was too cold to leave them there, so they were moved to a temperature monitor room at the back of the property. Can we go see it? Saelah asked. Later, Suguru said. We've been out here a while, and we don't want you catching a cold. It's a bit of a trek from here. Satoru had only shown her part of the property, and Kento knew she'd be far too cold if they showed her all of it at once. She nodded in agreement, and they entered Satoru's room through the sliding door. He'd skipped his side of the home during the initial tour inside. Kento helped Saelah out of her coat as she took in the bedroom, which was a loose description of it. If he had to compare it to something, it was more akin to a hotel suite, with a seating area, a door that led to the ensuite, another that led to another room his friend used as an art studio, and a large walk-in closet. There was even a mini fridge, kettle, and bar that had been added in the last 7 years. How do you feel? Better now that you've met everyone, Suguru asked. Yeah, it was much better than I thought it would be, Saelah replied. We told you, Satoru responded. We have a few hours until dinner. What should we do? Kento said, hanging his and Saelah's coats. He glanced over to find her at the desk on the other side of the room. She picked up one of Satoru's sketchbooks. Whatever the three of you want to do, she answered. Can I look in here? She asked. Satoru nodded, then joked. If we did what I wanted to do, it would get too loud. You think anyone could hear us when they're on the other side of the house? Suguru inquired with a raised brow. Nope, not unless they come down here. So we could do that, Satoru teased, wiggling his eyebrows. Kento snorted as he shook his head. We're not doing that in your parents' house, and definitely not with all of your families here, Saelah informed, flipping a page in the sketchbook. Let's exchange gifts, Kento suggested. I'd rather do it with the four of us instead of with everyone else. Kento, did you buy something scandalous that you don't want our parents to see? Satoru teased, and Kento ignored him, going to his bag by the closet door and pulling out 3 wrapped gifts. He sat on the ottoman at the end of the bed. Saelah put the sketchbook aside and went to her bag, pulling out gifts. The other 2 followed suit. Suguru sat on the other side of the ottoman and Saelah and Satoru sat at the end of the bed. They exchanged gifts, and when Kento opened what he thought was a book from Saelah, he found it was a case that housed the whiskey-making kit. I thought you might like this since you enjoy your highballs, she told him. I do, pretty. You'll have to make it with me. She got Satoru and Suguru gifts that fit their hobbies too, and Kento could tell she put a lot of thought into getting them each something they would like, but wasn't generic or the same. When she opened her gifts from them, he thought it was coincidental that his father had given her recommendations for tea she hadn't tried, since Kento had gotten her a tea set with a pot and 2 cups and a variety of tea for her to try. She smiled at him before giving him a kiss, then looking over a few of the different teas briefly before opening Suguru's gift. It was a mini portable picture printer. I know you have the Polaroid camera, but you also take pictures on your phone when we're out, and I thought this would be helpful, Suguru said. It will be. I can add more pictures to our scrapbook, she said, thanking him the same way she thanked Kento. Speaking of scrapbooks, Satoru said, gesturing towards his present. Kento watched Saelah open it, and inside there was a purple scrapbooking kit, for when the one you're working on now is full, Satoru said. Which will be soon, she told him, leaning over to kiss him. The three of them opened their gifts for one another, and then they put everything aside as Saelah grabbed the sketchbook she'd been looking at. She lay on the bed with her head on Satoru's lap as the four of them struck up a conversation. 20 minutes later, Kento glanced at Saelah to find her sleeping, sketchpad forgotten. "Looks like my mom wasn't the only one who needed a nap," Suguru said. "I think she exhausted herself from worry," Kento stated. "While she's sleeping, I think we should talk," Satoru said as he slowly slid from under her. He grabbed a blanket and covered her, and the three men moved to the seating area. "What did you want to talk about?" Kento asked, keeping his voice low. "Maidie marks," Satoru answered. "I want to do it soon." "No, I need to do it soon," he amended. He knew what his friend meant. It was as if his alpha was gnawing at him. He'd already felt like there was a buzz just underneath his skin, but after helping her through her heat, it was almost incessant, the need to have his mark permanently on her. "Kento's rut is in what, 3 weeks?" Suguru asked. "We could—" "No," Kento stated, cutting him off. "The reason you wore a muzzle during your rut was that you didn't want to mark her while in a haze. I don't want to either. We do it while we're all clear-headed, or when she's in preheat while she's still lucid." "The latter might be the better choice. The bites will feel less painful," Satoru said. Unlike the glands on the wrist, the mating glands were far more sensitive, and if they could refrain from causing any unnecessary pain, that would be ideal. "I agree," Suguru stated. "Let's talk to her about it when we get back and see how she feels about it." Kento nodded in agreement because he knew they were all itching to mark her, to be marked by her, so that there were no questions of who they belonged to.